Alrighty, welcome to the top 8 of Grand Prix Omaha. We've got Brad Nelson, first seed, against William Craddock. We've got an energy mirror-ish. Brad playing Temur Marvel and William Craddock playing Temur Energy. So similar decks. One plays Aetherworks Marvel, one does not.
Yeah, we've seen this matchup a few times. The Marvel Plan A is certainly quite powerful. We've seen it take, 6 players into the top 8, just marveling, hoping to get Ulamog or using Marvel over the course of a couple turns to generate different kind of advantage. However, in the absence of Marvel hitting the table, William Craddock's Temur Energy deck is a lot better at operating. The Plan B of the Marvel deck is basically Will's Plan A. And if he can keep that one single card off of the battlefield using negates or confiscation, coups, shatters, whatever it might be, then he's going to have a big advantage in the matchup.
Action gets kicked off here as Brad censors a Servant of the Conduit and follows it up with a Rogue Refiner. So Brad's on the board first here.
Yep. Part of that's by virtue of him being the number 1 seed, getting to be on the play, and Will Craddock's Temur deck is sort of a tempo-based strategy where he wants to land a creature and then sit back on negate. Makes it a lot harder when Brad can be the first onto the battlefield.
William needs to have pressure before his counterspell part of his plan really becomes effective. Whirler Virtuoso could provide some of that.
That's nice. It's a threat that can sidestep the Rogue Refiner as a relevant blocker. I mean, of course, the Virtuoso itself can't get through the Rogue Refiner, but making a couple flying attackers is good against both blockers and spot removal spells.
Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot here for Brad. Brings him up to 6 energy, so if he can find or resolve a Marvel, then he'll be in pretty good shape. And it looks like William is going to start making Thopters. Just making 1, leaving 3 energy back.
One reason why having 3 energy in the tank is very helpful is it allows him to play Bristling Hydra more safely, whereas even though the Bristling Hydra generates 3 energy and protects itself in that way, there is a window where Brad could respond to the trigger with a burn spell like Harness Lightning. So having a 3 energy buffer means that anytime Will can resolve Bristling Hydra, it's gonna be safe on the battlefield.
Well, there will be no Bristling Hydra this turn. William Craddock plays a Tune with Ether, so gets his 4th land, but has to pay 1 mana to do so. So he's going to have access to 3 mana this turn. He's got a lot of 3-drops in his deck. He could still follow up with something here. And it looks like Brad has a Harness Lightning in hand. Do you expect him to point that anytime soon here?
Well, I think Brad's waiting to the last possible moment to see what his best option is going to be. He might respond to this by killing Whirler Virtuoso.
Because that leaves William with 4 energy currently, going up to 6. It does not. So Rogue Refiner resolves. William is back at 6 energy, able to make 2 Thopter tokens.
It could be that Brad is particularly worried about Glorybringer and wants to keep Harness Lightning as an instant speed answer to the dragon.
Brad just chooses to cycle Dissenter's Deliverance into turn. I think he found an Aetherworks Marvel. Going to kick things off with an Attune with Ether. And he is playing against a deck with negates, so he has incentive to just get this Marvel out as quickly as possible.
Certainly. Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, just such a great pair to the Marvel for the obvious reason of generating energy, but also Brad has a nice, comfortable life total where he can play the Marvel, and even in the worst-case scenario where he has an awful hit, he still has a lot of life to play with. He doesn't have to worry about dying next turn.
And we've typically seen Brad pass the turn before using Marvel. see if that's the strategy he enacts here. The other strategy Brad has used frequently this tournament to good effect is to marvel into Ulamog.
Yep.
He's done a very good job of that.
Now I'm curious if Brad's actually going to let Craddock untap, or if he's, he's going to let him untap.
And he could have waited to see how many Thopters he was going to make before then making that decision, but looks like one Thopter was all that came out.
Craddock wants more threats in the air right now. He would love to have a Glory Bringer, because his priority now is to get the game done with before Brad finds Ulamog. And it's hard to win by attacking on the ground, since Rogue Refiner is, there's already one in play, and potentially there can be more via Marvel activations or just being cast from Brad's hand.
Well, unfortunately for William, he does just have a Bristling Hydra, so more ground pounders. Though that does get him to 7 energy here.
Yeah, that will be a good threat until Brad finds Ulamog, but it's not going to save him if that ever does happen.
And it looks like Brad has not found an Ulamog based on the amount of time he's spending thinking here, but he knows he's going to get to Marvel again on his turn. Even the Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot alone does that. If you're deciding between something like Rogue Refiner or Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, what would you tend towards taking here?
Given that I already have the Marvel in play and know that it's going to survive a turn, I would take Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. It's the largest amount of energy, and as I mentioned a moment ago, the life total buffer is really nice when you know that you have a big advantage when the game goes a little bit longer.
And because of the Marvel trigger, whenever one of your permanents dies, Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot represents 7 energy in total, which is even more than 1 Marvel spin. So Brad does elect to go with Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, going up to 5 energy here.
I think you could reasonably make the case that that's his second best hit after Ulamog, because it's just represents more spins and more shots at Ulamog.
And Brad has a lot of time here. So he's not under a lot of pressure, and even if he does continue missing on Ulamog, he's got a lot of other cards that interact with the board.
One dynamic that comes up when Marvel's in play for a few turns is the duck's not getting shuffled in the middle, so if you activate the Marvel 3 times, for example, it's not just that you're seeing 6 random cards each time, it's that you're seeing fully 18 cards, and that makes it hard to continue missing on Ulamog after a long period of time has gone by.
And cards like Attune with Ether become less desirable to cast as a result here. So Brad once again faced with the decision whether he wants to Marvel on his main phase or not. And looks like he has passed the turn because William is making a Thopter token. And once again, Brad content just to allow this.
Man, all the offense Craddock can muster is these little 1 damage Thopters in the air. It just takes so long to kill a player from 30 life when you're doing that. The Woodweaver's Puzzle Knots representing 6 life per puzzle knot. And the game is effectively on a clock, since Brad will hit Ulamog sooner or later.
So Brad sacrifices Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, going up to 9 energy, then immediately back down to 3 as he spins the Marvel once again. Another one of the non-Ulamog hits that's pretty solid here, Glimmer of Genius. Brad taking a look at that. He's got another Marvel, another Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. Do you have any thought to taking a Marvel here because you can sacrifice Puzzle Knot, then Marvel end of turn?
I don't think there's enough urgency to want to do that. I would rather focus on just getting a large energy reserve rather than trying to get a one-time burst of getting 2 activations in the same turn. There's no rush. Brad can just sit back, draw some cards, gain some life, and like I said, eventually Ulamog's going to be somewhere.
Looks like Brad also potentially tempted by Glimmer of Genius. He could get to the point where he could start hard casting Ulamogs.
Yeah, he has a Shrine of the Forsaken Gods there, so one more land makes 8 mana. And yeah, it seems like the game should go at least a couple more turns, and getting to 10 is not outside the realm of possibility.
And it looks like Brad did go with the second copy of Aetherworks Marvel. Because they're legendary, he'll select to keep the untapped one. Other one goes to the graveyard, nets him 2 energy, and then he sacks this Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. Once again, going back up to 9 energy. And presumably back down to 3, as he once again spins the Marvel. So a bit more of aggressive of a line than what you would have taken. But who's the one with an Ulamog in play?
Not me.
Also because you're not playing in the event. But Brad does, in fact, have an Ulamog in play.
Yeah.
It looks like he's going straight for William Craddock's lands, exiling Botanical Sanctum and an Ether Hub here.
Yeah, and Will does have a 1 of Confiscation Coup, which is the one card that Brad has to continue worrying about now that Ulamog is on the battlefield.
Ooh, Brad also with Chandra Flamecaller in hand, so he's got access to some powerful effects here.
If he was to cast Chandra and -4, that would kill all of Will's creatures and allow Ulamog to win the game in 2 hits, but Ulamog nearly wins the game in 2 hits anyway, just by virtue of eating 20 cards off the library each time.
Well, looks like Brad is going for it. Playing Chandra into a possible negate there, but not overly concerned about that. He even gets an energy off Marvel as he -4s the Chandra here.
Will's going to cash in Harness Lightning for some energy, which will allow him to save Bristling Hydra.
So he cast Harness Lightning, elected to do 0 damage so he could pump Bristling Hydra twice, as you mentioned, making it a 6/5, taking 4 damage, but not stopping Ulamog from attacking. Ulamog comes in for 20 cards and 10 life. I wonder how many cards Ulamog has exiled this tournament. Seems like a lot.
Yeah, certainly a lot.
Poor Kozilek, never Kozilek. William Craddock, not very close to having a Confiscation Coup ready to go here. And with Brad at 26 life, not very close to dealing lethal damage to Brad either. Whirler Virtuoso from William Craddock, maybe attempting to throw some chump blockers in Ulamog's way, but Ulamog is on the warpath here. Do you see a way for William Craddock to come back into this game?
No, I don't. It has to be Confiscation Coup, and he still needs a lot more energy, plus has to deal with potential of Censor, potential of a second Ulamog coming.
Brad plays his 3rd Marvel of the game in order to gain 2 energy and hits another Ulamog here. And that will be enough. William Craddock scoops it up, and Brad Nelson is up a game here in the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Omaha. See, both players have access to deck lists. They can use those in between games. Though at this point in the tournament, that's not as big of an edge as you might expect. Still nice to know what their one-of sideboard cards are and the like. So, as these players sideboard, we've got some messages for you, but we'll be right back after those. top 8 here at Grand Prix Omaha. I'm Louis Scott Vargas here in the booth with Reed Duke. We just saw Brad Nelson with a little help from Ulamog take game 1 here. And we're taking a live look in here. Sam Pardee against Andrew Ziggas. Sam is down a game playing Black-Green Constrictor against 4-color Marvel. I believe actually we saw Andrew in the feature match against Owen Turtenwald early in the tournament, so he's done well since then. So what's Sam got going on? He just traversed for a basic forest, and he's got a Nissa Voice of Zendikar, a plant token, and a Dispossess, which strips, it looks like 2 marvels out of Andrew's hand. So
wow, that's a big swing.
This is one of the situations you were telling us about earlier, Reed, where Dispossess, as in fact card advantage, is so much better than something like Lost Legacy.
So not only does Andrew no longer have his plan A to save him here, but he's also down handily on resources and is going to have a lot of work to do to put something together in this game. So the 4th color, by the way, in 4-color Marvel is white. Andrew has 3 copies of Nahiri the Harbinger in the main deck. That's, I guess, a card that helps him win battles over artifacts and enchantments, you know, for example, in a Marvel Mirror.
Also can exile Ulamog. Tapped Ulamog can be exiled by Nahiri.
Wow, you're right.
Two-headed giant player. Your round 2 pairings have been posted.
Do you think we're going to see a Nissa ultimate here? It is possible. Sam does not have a lot going on besides these plants, but they seem eager to jump in the way.
Once Sam is able to dispossess the Marvels, that makes card advantage strategies like the Nissa Ultimate a lot more appealing, because it means that Andrew's forced to play a fair game with Sam. In effect, he's forced to play Sam's game against Sam.
Reed, how many times do you think we're allowed to make references to party time?
Why don't you get it out of your system now? Just do like 3 or 4 in a row.
Okay. I suppose that's a plan. A very balanced approach. Well, if Nissa ultimates, then it definitely is party time, because Sam will have drawn a grip of cards here. Though I would say traverse the Uvenwald without Delirium is not a particularly rousing party. And it looks like our first match is going, so we're going to head back as Sam attempts to grind a somewhat long game with that Nissa ultimate there. Looks like William Craddock is getting the party started early with a turn 2 Servant in the Conduit.
Yeah, he's got a much better start this game. Being on the play and having the turn 2 Servant means he can play Bristling Hydra or Chandra before Brad even has a 3rd land, but Harness Lightning takes care of that. Oh, and a missed land drop.
A missed land drop for William, though he has a Channeler Initiate. Looks like Brad using an energy to cast a tune with Ether off Ether Hub and then immediately gaining those 2 energy back. Though it means that Brad will not be able to play a 3-drop this turn. He has a Rogue Refiner he's unable to run out there. It does not look like Brad has another Harness Lightning as he just passes the turn here.
If he has Censor, that would be strong also against an opponent who's stuck on mana. But no, Whirler Virtuoso is going to resolve. See if Brad has anything to cast on this turn.
Looks like Brad's going with Ether Meltdown on Whirler Virtuoso.
Okay, so that's just a way to buy time and get more energy. He does have Marvel in hand, but not enough energy to activate it right away.
So he runs out the Marvel. End of turn, William makes a Thopter token with Whirl of Virtuoso. In looking at William's deck list, he doesn't have any Game 1 ways to kill Aetherworks Marvel. In Game 2, he's got 2 copies of Manglehorn. And if he has one of those right now, it would be quite powerful.
Oh, no. He is using the 3 counters from Channeler Initiate to kill his own creature, but that gives Brad a 6 energy due to Ether Meltdown dying.
Oh, wow. That could have been a pretty big misstep here.
Yeah, an extra Marvel activation a turn ahead of schedule.
Though, not the most imposing Marvel hit. Looks like Brad is attuning with Ether here.
Yeah, very unimpressive, but actually might be just what the doctor ordered for Brad, because I noticed his hand was a little bit light on mana, and getting a bit more energy to get him closer to the second Marvel activation is good too.
Brad starting the turn at 2 energy, and with a Harness Lightning and I think a Rogue Refiner in hand. That means that he might be able to get up to enough energy this turn to Marvel again.
Please go to table 369.
So Brad plays that Rogue Refiner, ticks up to 4 energy, and now he's got Harness Lightning. If he wants to Marvel, the Thopter token would be the target. And it looks like indeed he targets Thopter token, deals 1 to it, and is back spinning the Marvel once again. And I saw an Ulamog there. So that extra spin off the Marvel, critical. Brad got to spin end of turn, untap, spin again.
Yeah, I think Will probably should have just put the counters right on Channeler Initiate. Not that this game was going particularly well for him either way. This is going to be a quick one.
And that'll do it. Brad Nelson, first player to advance to our semifinals here, and continues his run as the first seed.
Yeah, he hasn't slowed down all weekend.
I wonder if he's regretting an intentional draw. Probably not, but you never know. Could have gone 18-0.
That's true. I think that's something you only think about, a couple years after, because if you win the Grand Prix, you're so happy regardless that you're not thinking like, oh, what could I have done better? What could I have done even more impressive?
Alrighty, let's go ahead and take a look at one of our other matches. We have Pardee playing Temur Marvel against Hunter Cochran, also playing Temur Marvel. Life totals haven't been updated. We're getting to those. And Pardee currently up a game here, though. This game looking a little less good. He's got nothing on the board. He's facing down Tireless Tracker and Rogue Refiner, both players with lots of lands and energy otherwise.
If your name is Daniel and you signed up for an on-demand draft, your draft is waiting to fire.
Hunter Cochran following the clues, looking for an Aetherworks Marvel, perhaps.
Your draft is waiting to launch.
We know that Pardee is no stranger to the Marvel Mirror. He made it all the way to the finals of Grand Prix Montreal, which was also a Marvel-heavy field. So he's been able to navigate this matchup pretty successfully, and he is up a game here.
I remember actually when we covered Grand Prix Denver many months ago, Paul playing Temur at that tournament too before it was even popular. So he's got some experience with the Temur colored Marvel energy decks.
Does look like he's substantially behind in this game, with neither player having a Marvel. Tireless Tracker is probably the next best thing to provide a long-term advantage. Paul seems to be losing at just about every axis here. Lands in play, cards in hand, creatures on the table. But he does have 7 energy, so getting a Marvel into play could easily change things.
Looks like one of those games that might conclude without either player playing Marvel. The energy mid-range deck mirror, as it were.
Once again, This is last call for 4 p.m. Turbo Mod.
That's what Will Craddock would have liked in the previous match.
Yes. Ovenwald Hydra here for Paul. Getting taken down by Harness Lightning while it's still a 6-6. Players determining whether... Oh, okay, that land was in play or not. But anyways, Harness Lightning taking down the Hydra. Next turn... Looks like Hunter actually can attack for lethal here. With a Lumbering Falls, Tireless Tractor, if he's got a land to play to gain a clue.
Which we just saw. He accidentally dropped on the table. Yeah. Or perhaps intentionally, maybe he was showing Paul, like, oh, okay, let me show you that I have lethal.
I do like Hunter making sure he saw what his clue yielded before winning the game. Got to draw your card. So Hunter Cochran ties the score up 1-1 between him and Paul Dean. As we're getting through this top 8 here at Grand Prix Omaha. See, here in the booth, we have all the deck lists, and as players get eliminated, Reed takes their deck lists, rips them in half, and throws them behind him.
Don't need that anymore.
Here, another live look in here. Game 3, Sam Pardee against Andrew Ziggas, and looks like Sam won the game where he dispossessed 2 Aetherworks Marvels, and maybe not a surprising turn of events.
Sam Pardee is our last hope for a non-Marvel player to make the semifinals.
Well, then we might have a few people rooting for him. Who knows?
Also worth noting that Black-Green Constrictor was the winning deck of Grand Prix Amsterdam in another Marvel-heavy field. So many of the players that have chosen this deck did so because they liked their matchup against Marvel.
Dylan Bauman to the side event stage. Dylan Bauman, please.
Andrew Ziggas responding to Transgress with Harness Lightning. And just picking up that Aetherworks Marvel, just assuming Sam is taking it here. Also, fairly likely Sam is taking it here.
I would.
Seems like kind of a party foul to not take Aetherworks Marvel with Transgress if you have the option.
Sam, I suppose, could be thinking about it if he has a way to destroy an artifact in his hand. Because Andrew would probably just play the Marvel without having 6 energy, and if Sam could then blow it up, it might be worthwhile to consider taking another card, but much safer, in my book at least, to take the Marvel and just not have to worry about it.
And Sam does have Dissenter's Deliverance, but and that likely what he was thinking about, as you mentioned, but he decided to take Marvel and then just cycle Dissenter's Deliverance. A particularly crafty opponent could also just wait on the Marvel a turn and be able to use it immediately, and that's where your plan backfires.
Although that leaves you vulnerable to a follow-up discard spell.
Never to Return takes out Andrew's Servant of the Conduit, leaving both players with nothing, which, from our past experiences with the deck, seems like it favors the Marvel player if nothing is happening. Assuming the Marvels are still in your deck and no dispossesses have been cast.
Andrew actually has a substantially different deck list from the rest of the Marvel players in the top 8, where most players have opted for the Censor Glimmer of Genius configuration. Andrew still has Servant of the Conduit and Whirler Virtuoso. He's more interested in just tapping out every turn for a powerful card that gives him energy.
Sam playing Ob Nixilis Reignited and just using it to draw a card. Sam has never worried about killing his opponent's creatures or blocking them when they attack Ob Nixilis. He's just, look, Ob Nixilis is going to draw me 3 cards, and I don't care about anything else. And it looks like Andrew did not make any Thopter's end of turn for Whirler Virtuoso, so he's going to attempt to take down this Ob Nixilis 2 points at a time.
He's saving his energy, I suppose, just to give himself a chance of drawing Aetherworks Marvel.
Players playing a turbo
So
line
Obnixilus,
event. Please
Sam
go
finally
to
pulling the
your
trigger here and
table
killing Whirler Virtuoso. Looks like it's going to prompt a lot of Thopters, though, as Andrew sacrifices his Woodweaver's Pulse Knot, goes up to 12 energy. Quick, how many Thopters is he going to make?
For a moment, it looked like 0, but he decided to go with 2.
Well, you're supposed to guess how many you're supposed to make.
Yeah, I didn't. He really is going far out of his way to make sure he can activate a Marvel at any point that he draws it.
See, I'm usually in your seat, Reed, and I'm the one who gets put on the spot, so I'm not going to pass up any opportunity to just put you right on the spot.
Fair enough.
Sam Pardee casting Traversely Ovenwald with Delirium, getting Walking Ballista, and actually this works out perfectly for Sam. He's got a 2/2 Walking Ballista facing down 2 Thopters with Obnixilus on 1 loyalty.
Yeah, so that means he's going to be able to successfully protect Obnixilus and continue drawing cards, which, until Andrew finds Marvel, is going to be the determining factor of the game.
How many Thopters would you have made?
I think I would have just made the maximum number of Thopters as early as possible.
So 2 the first turn, 2 the second turn, instead of 0 the first turn and 2 the second turn.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew is in better shape if he draws Marvel, but you're more opting to play for a game where you don't necessarily draw your Marvel.
Exactly.
Here's Nahiri the Harbinger. Ticking up, cashing in Harness Lightning for unknown card there.
Looks like he picked up Sheltered Thicket, so
Pretty good draw.
yeah, cool decision whether to cycle it, whether to play it, or whether to do nothing. I would do nothing.
That's generally a good strategy in Magic, or it used to be. Maybe not as much these days.
Yeah.
But it does protect Andrew from hand disruption if he just leaves a land in hand and then cycles at end of turn.
Right. The reason to cycle it main phase would be if you were to draw come into play tapped land, but with Nahiri the Harbinger in play, you probably just want to cycle those anyway.
Never to return, acting as a kind of cut rate version of Runus Path here. Actually, this is one of the few times when both halves are cast in the same turn. So Sam ending up with a 2/2 zombie, Nahiri going away, and Sam now firmly in the lead here.
Yeah, and Andrew actually doesn't even have enough energy if he had been to draw Marvel that turn. Now he's setting himself up nicely. If he can find it here, he might win, but his time is running short because every turn that passes, Sam's getting a colossal advantage off this Obnixilus.
And once Sam finds Dispossess and strips all the Marvels out of Andrew's deck, then it's going to be that much harder for Andrew to come back here. Sam, once again, no respect for the Obnixilus loyalty, he just doesn't care, but his attack with Hissing Quagmire and Zombie Token trades the Quagmire for Servant of the Conduit. An Aftermath return.
Andrew
again.
accidentally just knocked the tablecloth and revealed the forest in his hand.
I would say at that point you should just play it, but with Nahiri the Harbinger in your deck, yeah, you have incentive to keep random lands in hand.
Yeah, potentially Tireless Tracker as well.
Though with 2 lands in hand now, that incentive becomes lower. Woo! You're always unhappy when your hand disruption spell misses, but you're pretty happy when you know they have just nothing.
Yeah, the coast is clear.
So Sam picked up a Dissenter's Deliverance there. What do you predict he's going to do with that over the next couple turns?
He might hold on to it, especially now that he has Tireless Tracker to spend his mana on and continue drawing cards. That's going to be relevant in the unique case that Andrew finds Marvel but doesn't find Ulamog right away. But it could potentially be a game winner if that situation arises.
Andrew, not, flush with time here. With that Tireless Tracker, along with those 2 zombie tokens, applying a decent amount of pressure. Attune with Ether bumps Andrew up to 11 energy, but again, no Marvel.
He could have drawn Chandra Flamecaller that turn, but at this point, I think it's only Marvel into Ulamog that's going to get him back into it, since Tireless Tracker can grow up to 5 toughness this turn.
Sam churning through his deck here. Sacking clues up Tireless Tractor, ticking Ob Nixilis up. And he's doing a very good job of being the control deck here.
Yeah, look how many cards are in his hand.
Reed says jealously. Cycled Dissenter's Deliverance. Find us a Virtuous Gearhulk.
Yeah, I like the idea of casting the Gearhulk and trying to produce as many 5 toughness creatures as possible.
Sam disregards your advice and acquires 2/2/+1/+1 counters on each zombie.
Yeah, Chandra could be... I mean, it wouldn't win Andrew the game. It would just buy time, because let's keep in mind that Sam still is an active Planeswalker and 100 cards in his hand. Oh, wow. Andrew could be punished for not playing out his lands if he finds the Marvel off of this draw. Nope.
He does not. Servant of the Conduit, and Sam just has more than lethal in play with Never to Return and Ob Nixilis sealing the deal. Sam Pardee moves on to the semifinals here at Grand Prix Omaha, defeating 4-color Marvel, and looks like Paul Dean just wrapped up his match. He also advances to the semifinals in the Temur Marvel Mirror. So we've got Paul Dean, Sam Pardee, Brad Nelson, and our last result is, take a look here, looks like another player.
Tyler Schroeder versus Dylan Ionis.
Looks like Dylan Ionis defeated Tyler Schroeder, and Dylan Ionis playing Temur Marvel. All right, so we'll be back with semifinals soon here, but until then, we've got some messages for you.